This is Behind the Headlines, with behind-the-scenes analysis on issues affecting Pennsylvanians, sponsored by the Susquehanna Valley Center for Public Policy. Now, here's your host.
Hi, from Philadelphia to Erie, from Pittsburgh to Wilkes-Barre, it's Behind the Headlines. I'm Charlie Greenewald, Senior Fellow for the Susquehanna Valley Center for Public Policy, and I'm joined by my co-host, Mara Donnelly. Mara, welcome to the show.
Hello, Charlie.
Mara, this is what is called a midterm election,
yes.
And this year we're going to see municipal elections in Pennsylvania. And a lot of our viewers don't realize how important these elections are to their day-to-day lives, do they?
That's true. The municipal elections are probably more impactful on our daily lives than anything, so they are very, very important.
And someone who we've had as a guest before, and who is probably one of the best authorities in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania on municipalities, on local government, is Dave Sanko. Dave, welcome back to the show.
Thanks.
Of course, you are the Executive Director of the Pennsylvania State Association of Township Supervisors.
Yes.
And we're always happy to have you come and help enlighten us on some of these subjects. The midterm elections are coming up, and we do have municipal elections coming this year. What does this mean? What do they mean to Pennsylvanians? What are the consequences of them, Dave?
Well, I think more often than not, if a local election, your local township supervisor, your local borough official has a greater ability on a day-to-day basis to be touching the lives of someone in their community than does a governor or president of the United States. While those races typically get much more attention, it's the local offices that really are on the ground and is where all the work's done.
So how do people become interested in running for these local positions, such as township supervisor? Well, what makes them eligible? Can anybody run?
Anybody can. What really makes them eligible is they care about their community. And they care about what it's going to look like in 10 years or 20 years. And they care about the quality of life in that community and making sure that, and they care about their kids and their grandkids. And that's why they get involved. And they can make a difference.
And the most important criteria.
Yeah.
Dave, all 50 states have constitutions, and every state constitution lays out how that state will organize local governments and what the local governments will be and what their powers will be. Here in Pennsylvania, could you provide a quick primer for our viewers? What are the local governments in Pennsylvania?
Well, within Pennsylvania, it's structured that everyone will live in a school district. Everyone will live in a county, and everyone will live in a municipality, and there are no overlaps between those three. The schools will largely provide for education, obviously. The counties will do a lot of the human services and delivery and public safety, 911 centers, jail, courts, stuff like that. And the municipalities, whether be they boroughs or towns or townships or cities, will provide really the local infrastructure, both really about public safety and health and welfare providing for the citizens of the community. So it can be the roads, it can be bridges, it can be trash collection, it can be water and sewer infrastructures, it can be parks, it can be recreation, land use planning, all those things that make up the fiber of a community.
I think that's the best description of that breakdown of the services offered that I've ever heard so succinctly. So, and I think people discover who is running their municipality when their roads aren't plowed, and that seems to be whenever there's a problem they don't pay attention, but they need to start paying attention now. But really, if I said to you I'm going to run for my township supervisor, what kind of advice would you give me? And then be giving everybody thinking about the possibility of doing that?
I think, meet your neighbors, have the support of your family, but meet your neighbors and talk about the things that are important in your community. If there's a stop sign that needs erected for a safety issue, it's something that comes to the local township supervisors. If there's a question about dogs or cats being out of control. I mean, there can be local ordinances for that. It really comes down to gauging what your community's needs are, and I say needs, not wants, because at the end of the day, everybody wants everything, but it's what you can afford. And I think that's one of the reasons local government is so effective, is that it often focuses on the true needs of a community and what a community needs to have done, and only what they can afford to have done.
In Pennsylvania, of course, we have 67 counties, and every county then is broken down into either cities or boroughs or townships. And you, of course, represent the townships, and the townships make up the vast majority of the land mass in Pennsylvania, don't they?
The townships are 95% of the Commonwealth's land mass.
Wow. That's
95?
95.
Wow. That's a lot.
That's a great statistic. So your members are responsible for 95% of the state. How exactly do these local governments operate, Dave?
Well, townships specifically will have a board of supervisors that will either be 3 or 5 members. There are also first-class townships and home rule communities that can have a local charter that would govern them. Boroughs will have a mayor and council. Cities will have a mayor and council. So it's largely local elected officials who will become
and those
a
are all
governing
elected
body.
positions.
So they're all elected positions and local governing bodies.
So township supervisors, a township could have 3 or could have 5 supervisors,
Right.
and there's no provision in there, as there is, for example, with county commissioners, for minority party representation?
No, there's not. It can be 3 or 5 unless they're home rule, in which case it can go up to 9. But it is based purely on the election results and who the voters want in office, without any external determining arbiters.
Are townships struggling finding people to run for these positions?
You know, it's interesting. I mean, I think people run. There's a perception that look, everybody's busy. It's hard to find folks to serve in church groups or volunteer fire departments or local government. But I would argue that, and I think we're seeing less vacancies because people do care about their communities. I mean, there's a survey done every year, and they ask folks which level of government they find most effective and efficient. Is it the federal government, the state government, or local government? And consistently, and most recently this year, local government gets 66% of the voters saying they're most effective. Now, there are 25% who believe that Harrisburg is the most effective level of government, and there are 10% who believe that Washington is the most effective level of government. I've never met any of those folks. I'm not sure who they are.
I wonder who they are. Yeah.
But local government by far is the most effective, and I think people do step up and are running and do care about their communities. We don't necessarily see as much turnover, and oftentimes in elections when people are happy with the outcome and the way things are going, they're comfortable with those in office and don't get all riled up. I mean, which I think when you're 66% of the people are saying local government works, maybe why you don't see folks running. You get to the further away you get from a community, going to Harrisburg or going to Washington, and people begin to be concerned more about the dysfunction. They want to do something about it. They get agitated about it, and there's a lot more attention focused on those levels as opposed to the levels that get things done.
Good government organizations will frequently tell us the importance of getting out the vote, getting people to participate. What is the importance of having more people participate, Dave? What does it mean?
I think it's critical, but I think I would, and it's not to disagree with good government folks, but I think equally important to having people voting is that you have knowledgeable people voting. Who pay attention and look and understand the issues and understand what the impacts are. And, I mean, perhaps one of the worst things we could have is 100% voter participation, but only 50% of the people care. And you have 50% of the people just out there, making judgments that are largely uninformed.
You provide a lot of support for township supervisors across the state. If I ran today and won, if I started running today, it would be a short election. But if I won, what kind of support do you provide all your township supervisors, but brand new ones?
We will put on a series of training courses, but for newly elected officials. But we'll also do all the time act as a resource for information and the sharing of information, sharing of best practices, so that there may be a solution that's developed in a community in Wayne County in northeastern Pennsylvania, and the same issue and problem exists in Crawford County in the northwest, or Greene County in the southwest, or Berks County in central Pennsylvania, and it's our job to help share that, to help people learn the best practices. And nobody says everybody has to make the same mistakes all the time, over and over and over. So we'll provide that training and bring people together for the sharing of best practices, either in classrooms, webinars, or in some cases just phone conference calls.
So people who make this decision to run are not going to have to do it in a vacuum. There's a lot of support available to them.
We try and provide all the tools in the toolbox to help them do their job better. We don't tell everybody the answers. They've got to find the answers that are best for their community, because what works in one community may not work in another. So it's very driven to the needs of a local community.
Dave, I didn't tell you, but I'm going into Morris Township in this election. I'm leading a write-in campaign for her to become a township supervisor. And when she wins, what would you say would be the first, second, third? What are the most typical problems that the newly elected township supervisor will encounter?
I think finding the scope of services that you're going to want to deliver for your community, but probably more than that, coming to grips with the large number of unfunded mandates from both Washington and Harrisburg of things that they tell you have to do, but you don't have any funding to do. So instantly you're put into very difficult fiscal constraints and budgetary concerns, so that every day every decision you make is trying to figure out how to get 110 pennies out of every dollar.
Wow, that doesn't sound so easy though. But that's what your organization's for too. You're here to support that sort of advocacy in Harrisburg and on the federal level as well.
Yep,
yeah.
you bet.
Do you have a number? How many unfunded mandates from Washington are there that township supervisors in Pennsylvania have to deal with?
Oh my gosh!
I'm putting you on the spot. I apologize, because I imagine it's a rather large number, isn't it?
I would imagine that it is a very large number. I have a better guess at the Pennsylvania number.
Okay.
I know that there was a legislative commission that started looking at unfunded mandates and found that there were over 670 unfunded mandates that came from state government to municipal government.
So as soon as Morris elected, she has to.
I have a lot of reading to do.
She has to become knowledgeable about those 670 mandates off the bat.
That's overwhelming.
It's an outrageous number of mandates, and half of those come from the court system, the other half from the legislature and the administrative agencies. But it's an extraordinary burden on local communities, and when faced with here's what we want done, somebody's got to pay for it. You do it and you pay for it has been the traditional mantra that comes from Washington and Harrisburg.
Thank goodness for your organization.
Well, the first thing I'm going to do is join PSATS. And
there you go.
And start fighting these mandates. That'll be my first order of business. So,
okay. Dave, what's in the last 30 seconds of this segment? What's coming up for your organization in the next year?
Well, I think there will be a large number of newly elected officials, so we'll spend a lot of time doing introductory training. But at the same time, we will not lose focus on providing services for those who have been in office for longer periods of time and helping them advance, but also keeping boots on the ground, if you will, in both Harrisburg and Washington, as both of those towns seem to struggle with doing basic things like passing a budget. Local governments don't have the luxury of not passing a budget on time, so hopefully we can help them figure out how to get it done.
You need to spend more time on the Hill and give some tutorials, Dave. We're out of time for this segment, but we look forward to you coming back very soon and updating us on what's going on with PSATS. Stay tuned with us next week for a new edition of Behind the Headlines. We'll see you then.